Well, what's wrong with the way I dress?
It's distracting to the learning process. In fact, I'll be implementing some new policies.
Behind the curtain.
Oh, you got the food back there? Here I come. Hey, where's the food? And how come you took your clothes off?
Oh, Mr. Lawler, Principal Lawler, you're not thinking of making everyone wear uniforms, are you?
I wasn't. But that is a splendid proposal.
How many people actually know how the story of One Piece is going to end? There's, of course, Oda and probably an editor. Some say some random fan from a Make-A-Wish. And, of course, Roger knows how the story is going to end. And Odin does, too. I think Roger told Whitebeard and probably Shanks as well. Because Roger didn't That's So Raven the future when he got to Laugh Tale, but he did see a vision of the future. And we're learning that it wasn't like a real vision of the future, but knowledge of a prophecy. Roger laughed, and he said he was too early. He knew the fate of his world was yet to come, but at some point it would still come. And then after that, Roger dedicated the end of his life to ensuring this fate. And as Luffy's journey has continued, we've learned that he really is the central figure of whatever prophecy exists in this world, which undoubtedly signals a change in one of the longer standing themes of One Piece: freedom. And much like Raven Simone in her titular series, it leaves us with the question that if we knew our future, could we change it? Fate and prophecy seemingly stand opposed to a concept of free will in characters. The idea being that choices they make are already decided so that they reach a preordained destiny. But if that's what's been happening for Luffy, is that freedom? Are we entering a time where the only way for Luffy to truly be free is to not follow the Nika prophecy and reject the will of his fruit? Like, I don't think that would ever happen in this story, but it does make me wonder, what does the increasing role of fate mean for the themes of freedom in One Piece? And how does that change what kind of character Luffy is?
Miss Tallulah on the line, ready to tell your future.
And it's not just about Luffy. He isn't the only character in One Piece grappling with fate. The archaeologist who taught me how to be a simp for anime characters has been running from destiny since she was a child, when her family's home was burnt out of the history books for learning too much about the world's past. Aokiji and the world government made it clear who she was and what they feared her destiny was. Other characters like Saul, and most importantly Luffy, push her to believe that she can create her own future. And that's the best part of Robin's character development to me. Her gradual belief that simply she has the freedom to live her own life. Even though as a child she thought her destiny was preordained, she takes the That's So Raven route and always tries to change her fate, up until she decided it was all too much and she said she wants to die, which is of course when she first fell into the orbit of Luffy, who seems to approach fate completely differently. He even very absurdly insists when the Straw Hats are standing opposed to the Marines at Enies lobby that if Robin wants to die, she should do it, but by her friends and not just let the world government decide her fate. Like, Luffy's very pro-euthanasia. He's like, you can end it all if you want, but do it on your own terms. Don't let the world government choose your fate for you. And again, through these characters and story beats, we're shown that the main people in the One Piece world have a freedom in their destiny. Until recently, it hasn't seemed that fate might be a bigger driving force in characters' decisions than their own free will.
You're the worst sister! I hate you!
All we're saying is that one day you're going to push him a little too far.
And I'm not brain dead, like, I'm not gonna argue that fate hasn't always been a part of the One Piece world. From Zoro choosing a cursed sword and letting it decide if he was gonna be a paraplegic for the rest of the story, to the Blackbeard pirates seemingly talking about fate every time they appear on screen. And honestly, I think that besides Luffy, they're the biggest indicators of what this series is about. We even have characters like Basil Hawkins, whose entire vibe seems to be built around tapping into the powers that be and the fate of himself and the people around him. Like, there's that very interesting line from him that no matter how many times he checks the predictions, Luffy's chances of survival never are zero. And in that same light, Luffy has very obviously been foreshadowed to be chosen for something great. There are so many indicators, like he's the son of the revolutionary dragon, the grandson of Garp. He grew up alongside Goldie Roger's son, and of course the bigger things like Shanks giving him the hat, the symbol of the revolution, and apparently like a replica or something of the same hat that Joy Boy wore 800 years ago. From these examples and countless others, Luffy has always seemed like he's destined for greatness. It wasn't ever shoved in your face. It wasn't like he was staring into the camera and seeing visions of the future like his mom was actually Raven-Symoné this whole time. But regardless of seeing it in a vision, Luffy's destiny has seemed solidified since Romance Dawn. The difference is that the story was always written like Luffy was the one who chose this destiny, instead of us having a story where the main character was fulfilling his centuries-old fate.
No, you can't. I love your son. Oh, no, y'all don't understand. I'm only 15. Oh, no.
But fate is nothing new in this story, and a lot of the recent reveals around Nika and the Void Century aren't total surprises. It's becoming clear that this story is driven by fate, if not by some magical power that exists up in the sky, at least by a future that's been set up by people during the Void Century. But is One Piece really as good of a story with this new relationship with fate? It just feels antithetical to Luffy as a character. I mean, he's a person who literally talks about being the freest person alive all the time. And freedom and fate, as we traditionally understand them, aren't really harmonious. The themes in One Piece, at least up till now, don't really align with the story being preordained. And maybe Luffy's aware of this to some degree. Luffy actually seems like he's been avoiding his fate as long as the story has gone on. He's never concerned with history or circumstance. Like, he literally falls asleep during the backstories of the countries he's saving. The only fate Luffy seems to care about is the fate of all the meat in these countries. He never cared to hear about his dad or where he came from. And there's one moment that showcases this the best, I think. It's when Luffy adamantly doesn't want to know anything about Laugh Tale or what Roger found on that island from Rayleigh. He's given the opportunity to learn about the world, and in learning about that would probably understand that he's a character playing a role in this tapestry of destiny. But he immediately rages against the idea of learning this knowledge. He doesn't want anything to do with it. It shows how Luffy as a character is caught in the middle of this battle between fate and freedom in One Piece. Because knowing what the One Piece is doesn't actually change anything for him. What Luffy has accepted that Raven never did was that when you know the future that you're destined for, it doesn't change anything. You can do whatever you want to try and stop it, but that future will still come. So how do we One Piece lovers synthesize this new reality of fate in this story with our deep understanding of the themes of freedom that One Piece promotes?
Me, Raven.
Raven?
No, I am Tanya Baxter, Raven's mother. My daughter is in a bit of a jam, and I'm here to bail her out, all right?
And maybe this synthesis is the point. Maybe fate in One Piece isn't fate as we understand it, and it isn't like anything we've seen portrayed before. Maybe, and I know this sounds a little crazy, we need to look beyond the framework of That's So Raven to understand how fate operates in One Piece. Doc Q illuminated what fate in the One Piece world is best when he said that fate is a measure of a man's worth at all moments. What this means is that people who are destined for greatness will always have fate deal them the best cards, regardless of how dire a situation is. Ultimately, those destined for greatness have the greatest plot armor, and that's maybe the real word for what we're talking about. Luck. The theme of luck is consistently present throughout this series, maybe even more than fate, but it's pretty easy to miss. So many of the characters who have made it to the endgame of One Piece rely on luck and by way of that, fate. Blackbeard directly leaves things up to fate constantly, and Buggy has high-rolled his way into being an emperor. And Luffy's luck is like literally never ending, but specifically this one scene in Logtown is just such a great example of this. Luffy lives because of insane luck. Call it his dad's power, plot armor, or destiny. This is the luckiest thing that could possibly happen. But Luffy was ready to accept his death. The story could have ended here, and whether or not another character would fulfill Joy Boy's prophecy it didn't matter. For these characters, it isn't just that they're destined to be in these positions, but that their luck seems to result in things playing out in their favor. Of course, one could say it's just coincidence or bad writing, but it seems to be a real measure of greatness in the One Piece world. Luffy is the fulfiller of a prophesied future from the Void Century, but Luffy never tried or wanted to know what his future was. And every time he's given an opportunity to learn the future or understand his own significance, he rejects it. Because that's not who he is as a character. He's still the character who wants to be the most free. If his fate is chosen for him, he doesn't want to know because it will impact his freedom. We're learning that One Piece's story is one written by destiny. But it doesn't mean that the themes of freedom are any less valuable. People don't interfere with fate, nor can they. And the implications this has can be seen in every arc. But within this world with a void history and an erased fate is the story of a boy who chose to be free and has stumbled his way into fulfilling a prophecy.
Let's go. If you could gaze